Yeah, and so that without having like some kind of remote monitoring, they
Right.
were left up to the security company, like you had said
Sure.
prior,
Yep.
which is just yet another layer of like I don't call it bureaucracy, but like you're
Right.
relying on yet another layer of this kind of warning systems and
Sure.
monitoring and whatnot. Hey, everybody, welcome to Make Trades Great Again podcast. I'm Eric Awney with Andy Mickelson. And Andy, we're both in Minnesota,
Time Lord.
Montana. My goodness.
Montana. Yep.
I messed that up automatically or right away. I can't even speak today, man. I guess it's no different than any other day.
Right. Right. No, it's same old Eric. It's fine.
Well, you're in your shop, and I'm a couple hundred feet away. I'm in your living
In the
room, in your
house. Yep.
kitchen. Yeah, in the
Yep.
house, and we're trying out some new stuff. We're together doing some work, and that's what we want to talk about today.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. You came out here. Almost early Thursday morning. It was late Wednesday.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, Thursday we went and put in some brand new Tekmar controls that they worked with Mechanical Hub on. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We talked about these are connected controls for like boiler hydronic
Yep.
heating systems. And uh, we talked about these types of systems in a recent episode. I think it was back in November. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Yep. November 16th.
And
Yep.
yeah, and we talked about connecting everything to the internet and whatnot, which is an interesting topic I'd like to revisit just based off of, like you said, what we did over the last couple of days.
Yep.
The Tekmar controls, the first one we did, we had two different projects to work on,
Yep.
and both here in Missoula. And the first one was at a commercial storage facility, right? So, like
Right.
well, how would you best describe that? Maybe like a seasonal storage, or could you use
Yeah.
that property for like housing stuff for your business, or I don't
Sure.
know exactly.
Yeah. It's heated storage.
Okay,
Is what it amounts to. Now, is it warm? No, but it's not going to freeze. We're actively maintaining a 40-degree room set point there. So we're not
okay,
looking to keep it warm and comfortable to work on, but ultimately the idea behind it was that the owner who built it, he and a number of his friends, they're all relatively wealthy businessmen, have these great big diesel Class C motorhomes. And
okay,
they wanted to quit taking them down to get them winterized. And so they park them inside this gigantic warehouse. I don't know, it's not gigantic, but it's big
it's pretty big.
steel building. And there's 40, I think there's 40 units, 20 on each side, that are like a 20 by 40 in length. The one we were working in was a little shorter, which means that the one on the other side, I think, is a 20 by 60 or a 20 by 80.
Okay,
It's a big unit. There's a few in there that are pull through that are the full width of the building, so they're 100.
oh
I
wow.
think it's 100 feet wide. Um,
And it's radiant slab heat.
yep.
So big concrete slab acts as the radiator for the entire building. You're able to maintain a low,
Yep.
maintain that 40-degree set point in the space in the whole
Sure.
building by keeping that temperature of that slab pretty low, actually. But
Yeah.
that heats the whole space. Pretty cool
Yep.
system.
Yep.
A lot of people are familiar with radiant slabs, but ultimately this is being a little unique. There's no plumbing on site as far as like drain, waste, and vent. There's no
No.
place to dispose of condensate. Having high efficiency equipment really isn't an option unless some kind of they didn't build the building to allow for
Yeah.
that. Basically, is what it comes down to.
Yep.
So they've got a couple big 399,000 BTU cast iron,
Right.
mid efficiency boilers. You
Yeah.
know,
Yep.
non-condensing, and although that's fine, except for you need a way to control and maximize the efficiency for a system like that, and that's where that Tekmar boiler control. It's a smart boiler control that we
Yep.
installed, right?
Yeah.
What was in there prior to the installing this, or why were we doing this in the first place?
Well, so the building's about 20 years old, and the mixing control that we had in there was no longer producing a boiler demand signal. So we ran into this issue, I don't know, mid December
Okay,
this last year, where we got an alarm from the alarm company saying, hey, the building's cold. Hit, 30, 38 degrees or something like that. And that's when the alarm company starts calling the owner anyway. And so we went out and looked, and I ended up identifying that it was an issue there. And we made a little workaround, and then it's been a few months waiting for the building owner to kind of decide, like, how do we want to do this? Are you guys
right.
willing to go Wi-Fi? Are we just going to leave it? I hate to say dumb controls, but not connected controls, I guess is the better word.
Hmm.
And they finally said, yeah, no, we think that'd be a good idea to be able to remote monitor this thing.
And
So,
that's what's really cool to me is that, like, I don't want this podcast isn't about the Tekmar product, because that's, I mean, we
yeah,
made videos about it. That you want to learn
yeah,
about the product, it's cool. It goes back to what I, at the top of the episode we brought up. We've talked about this topic in the past. Some of my customers I've brought up in past episodes. Why does everything have to be connected to the internet? We've talked about whether or not connecting things there's like some true benefit. And then we had this project that we're doing together. It was a lot of fun. It's really quite simple, to be honest with you. These controls, first of all, I haven't installed a control that really connected to the internet, programmed and interfaced like as easy as these
oh
did.
man,
It's a hats off, honestly, to Tekmar for that, because it was like super, super impressive.
yeah,
Because you and I should share some frustration, and some of our friends that are close with us understand exactly what I'm referring to when I'm talking about connecting things to the internet and it not being easy.
right,
Uh, but that remote connectivity for this building now allows this ownership group, or whoever, maybe it's just one guy now, but
yeah,
there's people that have to look after this building. They're responsible for it. It's not the kind of business they're spending a lot of time on site, first and
no,
foremost, right?
no,
That's kind of the whole point of a business like this in the first place,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I think largely, I mean, you could probably go out there in October, and that gate probably doesn't get opened again until April, right? Like it's seasonal storage.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, there are a couple of business owners that have, storage out there, other storage, because they're a large space. You could almost, I mean, dang, it's almost as big as my shop is in
Oh
one of the
gosh,
units.
yeah.
They're huge, but there's a high likelihood that somebody might not show up for an entire week, right?
Right.
Maybe
Yep.
even several weeks on end where there's nobody there. And, and so, yeah,
And so that, without having like some kind of remote monitoring, they
right.
were left up to the security company, like you had said
Sure.
prior,
Yep.
which is just yet another layer of, like, I don't call it bureaucracy, but like you're
Right.
relying on yet another layer of this kind of warning systems and
Sure.
monitoring and whatnot. It's cool to see how that connected. And now, so for instance, like, just for anybody listening, this control we put in, touch screen, it's nice. Like, it was super impressive. We
Super
covered
nice. Yeah.
that. It is going to stage the boilers. It's going to tell the boilers, what temperature to run to, well, when to shut off. To maximize the use of one or the other boiler, or combination of the two. It's really, ultimately, it's like its main goal is to achieve the, however it's programmed to operate this system,
Yeah.
to do that with the least amount of fuel, the least amount of on off, that kind of thing,
Yep.
which is all hard on equipment. And it's doing it actually with, like, ultimately what comes down to being kind of the dumbest equipment that there is. Like, a cast
Right.
iron boiler has a aquastat that tells it what temperature it is. It tells it what, maybe a set point temperature. It has a gas valve.
Right.
Like, there's not a whole lot that goes on with these
Right.
things. There's no computerization. There's no computer attached to it. Put it that way.
Exactly.
Now we've taken and we've automated this and really brought it into the
Yeah.
current technology. without having to change the equipment. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that's neat about the app is that remotely I can log in and look at, what are we doing? How many cycles do we have? How many runs do we have? What's our current temperature, target temperature, things like that, that are just, you know, not having to drive out there and see that. I'm like, wow, this is really cool.
It
And
is.
on top of that, I can change parameters, right? I can't put it into
Yep.
hand mode, right? Which would make sense. I can't force it to fire from remote. Um, but I can go in and change warm weather shutdown. I can change outdoor reset curve, min max temperatures, things like that that, might save a trip out there if I look at it and go, oh, yep, I see what's going on here. This is the reason why we're not heating.
Well, it is. It is. It only is going to matter that you can do that one time
Yes.
where it truly might save, right?
Yeah.
Because hopefully you get equipment like this set up with the controls set up one time,
Yeah.
and it covers the whole kind of life cycle of it. But we moved from the storage facility yesterday, and same day we went cross town on a project that I had actually worked with you on
Yeah.
prior, where we did the big three commercial boilers, the
Yep.
Viessmann boilers, and all that mega press, and like it was just an awesome project. Anybody that doesn't know, there's a YouTube video out there from Mechanical Hub, and it's we call it Hub on the Road, and I worked with Andy's crew, and we tore out a 600,000 BTU cast iron
Yep.
boiler, and we replaced it with three commercial high efficiency commercial boilers from Viessmann. What were those?
There were,
No, it wasn't. It was bigger than
no, it was,
six. It was a
yeah, one
million, wasn't it?
million five, I think, or million two. I
Yeah,
don't remember off the top
million
of my head,
two
but
or something. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And then we put three new boilers in there that were 300,000 apiece, wasn't it?
399s.
Or 399.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a huge project. Documenting the whole
Right.
5 day project. It was a lot of fun. But on this, separate from those boilers, but kind of attached to it, because it's all in the same building. That condo building we put those boilers in has a underground parking.
Yep.
And in order to get into the underground parking, like pretty much anywhere, there's a ramp coming
Right.
from street level downhill into this garage. And you live in, we're talking about Missoula, Montana. You get snow
Yeah.
almost all winter long.
Yep.
Sometimes a lot of it. And that ramp has snow melt in it, or I
Yeah.
mean, that's just kind of the term we use, right? Radiant slab, but
Yep.
it's
Yeah.
snow melting system.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I don't know what, I'm trying to remember what that is. I think it's a 6-inch thick slab. Whoever installed it originally, I think it's the second ramp that they've had, but whoever installed the snow melt on it did a poor job. It never worked. Years ago, we made some modifications to it and it works better now. But the biggest challenge that we've always had is that the ramp is immediately next to the 4-story building.
Okay.
And so it's kind of sheltered a little bit. And so if in certain weather conditions, it may not get snow at the sensor, it'll cause this issue where it's not melting, right? The sensor will be
Right.
clear. It's just whatever. And so one of the big advantages of that Tekmar 670, the smart snow melt control, is that it does storm prediction. So I can say, well, with a little bit of programming, we're going to forego maybe a little bit of energy savings and just say, well, if we think it's going to snow, let's go ahead and warm up and get with really close to temp. And so
Let's
that,
get ready.
yeah. And so that's pretty slick that it'll, look at a weather pattern or weather forecast and anticipate a snowfall event. Well, 8 hours before the snowfall event, we're going to fire up the slab, right? It's
Yeah, you're going to slowly bring it up to a temperature that's like for a shorter amount of time, like you
right.
said, 8 hours. It's not a week. It's not a month.
Yep.
It's not the entire season. It's just short periods of time.
Yep.
To where this system might have turned on anyway,
Sure.
simply like you said, because there's embedded in the slab down, in this case, down by the door,
Right.
right? That's where that
Yeah.
sensor was. There's a puck in the slab with a wire run to it, runs back to the
Yep.
control in the mechanical room. This puck, this sensor that's embedded in the slab is going to sense the moisture. So
Right.
moisture has to fall on top of it, snowflakes
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
And it closes a circuit and tells the control like, hey, it's snowing. It's a pretty neat system how
Yeah.
that works.
Yep.
And it's always they're all these systems have that, but like you said, just simply because of how this ramp is more or less sheltered on two full sides of it
Right.
by the building, it can create a condition where that sensor doesn't even get that moisture.
Yeah.
So if you can if this control can um, anticipate storms, so it's doing that through the Wi-Fi connection. So that's
Yeah.
the significance of this controller, right?
Yep. Yeah, having that, I mean, that's the primary feature, in my opinion, anyway. I mean, the secondary is when it's snowing. If I get a call from the business or the condo association, and they're like, "Hey, there's some snow on the ramp. What's going on?" I can look at it remotely. What's the slab temp? What's the boiler supply temp? What's my supply temp going out to the slab? How many pumps are on? Is this thing running actually, or is it in fault? Did something happen?
Right, right.
And that may give me some indicators or some clues to, hey, do I need to go there at 11 p.m. because we have a massive problem, or do I need to be there sometime in the next couple of days to figure out why this didn't start? And so
Right.
I don't know, that to me, those are big factors. If I don't have to get dressed and get out in the van and drive across town in the midst of a snowstorm to figure out if the snow melt's working, that's pretty awesome.
It is also like if you look bigger picture, your guys don't have to do it, right?
Yeah,
So you're paying your guy. Like I know you get paid too, but like it's a
sure.
little different scenario. Like you're the owner, you get the call, and you're like, okay, crap, I gotta go do it. But in the event that you're not even in the country, like
Sure.
your employees are gonna have to take care of that, and having that connectivity is gonna be huge too. So I'm thinking back to like our normal um, kind of dealing with this technology and getting things connected and do we need it? Some of our customers are getting annoyed by it. I look at this and I think, well, like it's absolutely beneficial without a doubt. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't even without question. And also you're talking about something that people aren't going to probably have to interact with. It's
Right.
not a thermostat. It's not something that's going to probably be
No.
going on and off line to where it's going to be important that it's always connected, that kind of thing,
Yep.
for it to even function,
Yeah.
because these will function without a Wi-Fi control too.
Oh yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
um, like ideally, the whole point is having that functionality, and
Yeah.
that's and they made some upgrades to the existing controls to make them what they are now with the Wi. It's not just they added Wi-Fi. It
Yeah.
looked like they made some pretty big improvements actually.
Well, especially on that boiler control. I mean, that's just a full touch screen control. I mean, the amount of information that's on the screen at any given time and how easy it is to navigate through it. I mean, that in my mind, I was like, wow, I'm definitely looking towards installing more of these guys. That's a really nice control.
It was really nice, and I mean, mostly observed while the whole installation was going in, but like
Yeah.
pretty straightforward. And
Yeah.
it had a lot more capabilities than we were even taking advantage of, which just tells
Yeah.
you like they've thought a lot of things. We're controlling two boilers, and it can actually control up to four,
Yeah.
and you can connect more of them together. I think, if I'm not mistaken, so you could have more than just four, right?
Sure.
It's
Sure.
crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, and kind of the neat thing there too is that some of that is that boiler control would control up to four modulating boilers. So it's got
Yeah.
four 0 to 10 volt outputs and four boiler pump outputs. So along with a system DH and a DHW pump. So I mean, you've got capability of controlling a fairly large scale physical plant, if you will, and
Apartment building.
apartment building. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Multifamily to, light commercial really at that point, and having it be online. So
Right.
that's kind of a unique space for anybody that's not in that realm. You've got your standalone controls, if you will. That's your thermostats and your zone controllers and whatever the heating equipment has. And then
Right.
you step into this realm where you've got smart connectivity, you've got, remote access, remote monitoring, and then the next step from here to full on DDC controls it's a long ways. That's a big leap.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I don't,
This
yeah,
being off the shelf
yeah,
too. Like no major training required to
right.
understand its inputs and its capabilities.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting. It was cool to do it with you. I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
probably it doesn't take you don't have to twist my arm to come out to Montana and hang out with you either. So
Right.
like I
Yep.
was looking forward to this trip big time.
Yep.
It was fun to talk about this again. Just kind of on that topic where we see where this is definitely useful. We question some other things on whether or not like it's 100% necessary,
Sure.
whether it's connected to the internet, but pretty much a no brainer when it came to this. We'll
Yeah.
have a video coming out too for it'll be on the socials for these controls. We shot a bunch of video.
Yep.
We'll share more information on that, but you're probably hearing about this as those videos are hitting
Yep.
the social feeds.
Hitting them feeds.
All right. Well, speaking of feeds, Andy, how can people get a hold of us?
Well, they can get us at the email. That's the old standby. The make trades great again at gmail.com. They can check you on Mechanical Hub on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and
You
Twitter,
name
and
it.
that's it. Yeah, search for Mechanical Hub, and you'll find it. Me, you can get me at Mick_Plum on Instagram, and I think I'm Andy Mickelson on Facebook. So
There you
for
go.
for the purposes,
For the purposes of them things that are said and done.
that's right.
All right, dude. I appreciate it,
All
man.
right,
Have a good one.
you too.